Well, let's move on to Mid-Hudson, certainly not last but not least, Dr. Dennis Murray and Dr. Len Schleifer.
Good. Thank you, Madam Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Secretary, team members. Thank you for having us here today, and we'd like to thank our host from Buffalo for the tour and nice visit we've had here. I'm Dennis Murray, President of Marist College, along with my co-chair, Dr. Len Schleifer. I'll introduce more fully in just a moment. We'd like to cover three basic topics in today's presentation: our process for developing our ideas, our strategies, and finally preview some of the proposed projects and partnerships that we're developing. And we're not worried about sharing these in some detail because we have developed these around unique opportunities that we think exist in our region. The Mid-Hudson is indeed a unique part of our state. Like many other areas, we do not have a defining urban center. We're a diverse region. We have the Catskills, or parts of the Catskills, in Sullivan County. We have urban centers, many of which are distressed, which need help. We have farmland. We have Fortune 100 companies. We have an international airport with great capacity to deal with freight, which would relieve pressure off our New York City airports. We have the great Hudson River, and although the North County has Teddy Roosevelt, we have FDR and the nation's first presidential library. So we are indeed a unique area, and we've developed our plan around the unique aspects of our region. But before Dr. Schleifer introduces our details of this plan, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the process that we've gone through. First of all, we've collaborated with the regional planning organization in our area called Patterns for Progress, and Jonathan Drapkin, the president of Patterns, is with us today, also a member of our council. We convened extensive outreach in our region. We brought together focus groups. We met with business leaders, CEOs of corporations, and like the governor said in his remarks, a great deal of our attention was devoted to the private sector because these are where jobs, the vast majority of jobs, are going to be developed. But we also reached out to the community. We had over 1,000 community participants, and we conducted meetings, extensive meetings, in all the 7 counties in our region. We also have a specific team that deals just with data and data points, not only analyzing where we are, but where we think we could go, and we appreciated the work that was done with our team with the University of Buffalo Research Institute. So we have really reached out. We've come up with, we believe, are great ideas, but I would finally make the point that we believe that our region is somewhat at a tipping point. If we don't address problems in some of our distressed urban centers, we think that's going to detract from the economic vitality of our entire region. And if we don't continue to enhance the environment through some of the strategies we developed for some of the larger employers, it could result in declines in those particular areas. So we feel the work that our council has done is very important. Now, to tell you a little bit more about some of these strategies, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Dr. Len Schleifer, who I really think is a model for our state. Dr. Schleifer, as I think many of you know, is a physician, a researcher, and an entrepreneur who started with a small startup called Regeneron. Today, it's one of our nation's leading biotechnology companies with a market capitalization over $50 billion, and recently just came out with a new drug to deal with lowering cholesterol in severely ill patients that is making not only, I'm sure, an economic contribution to our region, but also a contribution to the health care of our citizens. So, Dr. Schleifer.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's a pleasure to serve with, as my co-chair, one of the longest-serving college presidents in the country. Thanks for being here. Being at this U table and going last reminds me of an event which was rather traumatic for me. I was fortunate enough to receive, and some say mistakenly receive, the Einstein Award from the city of Jerusalem, and I was sharing it with 10 other people. We were in a table like this. Everybody would go around being an S for Schleifer. I was at the very end. I had to listen to one presentation after another presentation after another presentation, each one better than the next. I didn't know what the heck was going to happen when I was supposed to present, so I leaned over to my wife, who we're now married 40 years. We almost didn't survive that moment. I said, "Sweetheart, what am I doing here?" Looking for some words of encouragement. And she said, "I have no clue. Just do it." So this is how I feel. I am not an expert on economic development, but this has been a process that I am proud to be part of, mainly because it has substance. The state actually listens. When we look at the projects that we rank for priority projects, those are the ones that get funded. Who wants to be part of something if you're not making a difference and you have no ability to make a difference? So we thank you for listening and allowing us to make a difference. Should you invest further in our region, we do believe that your past performance and experience matters. I don't care how good you are. If you throw Zamsky into the lab, he's not going to come up with a new drug to lower cholesterol. And Cesar is a nice guy, but he's not curing Alzheimer's disease. And I am a big fan of the Lieutenant Governor, but she has no chance in doing some of the things that experience and proven track record allows you to say you can do. At our council, we do have proven experience and a great track record. In almost 600 projects, we've got a 93% success rate in terms of projects progressing or completed. We choose well. Our leverage is great. 6-to-1 leverage across all the CFAs and 10-to-1 leverage across the priority projects. 10-to-1 leverage. That is what economic development is really all about. The state can't do it alone. The state has precious few funds, barely can do what it has to do. And if it wants to do this, it needs leverage from the private sector. And most importantly, and what I'm very proud of, is that Dennis and I and our council have not focused on any one region. We have just simply chosen the best projects and ranked them in that way. And if you look at the map, they do turn out to be across all of our counties in our Mid-Hudson region. So what we want to focus on in our plan is really the three elements that makes for economic development, which is having good places to live, having great jobs, and having a place where people like to play. Not only the people who live and work there, but actually bring in people who might want to play there as well. And so I'd like to address each of these a little bit. And if you're wondering, does this make sense? You know, this live, work, and play has worked dramatically well in Manhattan, in places where you wouldn't go to, at least when I was growing up, you can't afford to go to now. In Brooklyn, I'm from Queens, nobody wanted to live in Brooklyn when I was growing up, and now you can't afford Brooklyn. It's got great places to live, it's got great jobs, and it's a great community that people like to eat and relax and play. It's a cool place. We have some cool places in our area. We've got some, the riverfront area in Yonkers has really come back. We'll talk more about that. Beacon is really a shining beacon that you can do this, but we have need. We clearly have need. We're not doing well enough in Newburgh. We're not doing well enough in Poughkeepsie. We're not doing well enough in Kingston. There are regions in Westchester, parts of Yonkers. We have to do a little bit better and really spread some of this success around. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into each of these. First of all, the demographics of living in our region are quite impressive. It's a big region. There's almost 4,500 square miles. There's 198 cities, towns, villages. The governor would say probably way too many. I'm going to suggest that maybe 2 get together and change their name in a minute. I have a specific proposal. We have a population of 2.3 million, which right now is young, but you run the risk of it getting old if the youth leaves. Right now it is under 40. And we have great higher education institutions in our area. We have Marist College and other and all sorts of great state institutions, and even one federal institution in terms of West Point. So we have the physical resources, we have the geography, people want to live here, but we have to retain the millennials. We have to make sure that they want to be in these areas. And that means smart growth, it means transit-oriented development, it means spurring downtown revitalization. Downtowns are hot. We got to make our downtowns all across our region scalding hot so people really want to go there, and making it an attractive places to live. We've done certain things, and we're working to streamline local planning. We believe in local rule, but we have to also make sure that the local rules don't obstruct what we want to do in terms of getting things done where we want to live and work. Turning to the work side of things, the council recognizes that we do have a strong basis, to support clusters. We have critical mass in things like high tech, in cloud computing and analytics. It's going on with IBM and Marist College and other parts of the region. IBM, of course, is one of the great companies in the region. We have biotech. I'm proud that we're one of the largest biotechnology companies in the world, located in Westchester County. A couple of commercials later. We have the goal of making the work high-tech. Yes, everybody needs to work, but we need to start with making sure we have high-paying jobs. If you look at the median paying jobs in the state, in the region, it's about 50 grand. If you look at what it is at a biotech company, it's more than twice that. And if you count the way some biotech companies, most good high-tech companies, most the modern startups, Regeneron, we count ourselves among that, we give people a share of ownership of the company. So when the company is successful, they are even more successful than just their salary. With our stock option program, we've created more than 600 millionaires. That's the way to do high-tech jobs. Those are the real kinds of firms that we want, firms that will see that kind of, that the employees are really the biggest asset you have. You got to get them invested in the company, and you got to reward them for doing that. But that means having the right kind of a workforce. If we don't have people that are trained properly, then we're never going to get companies to come to a region and grow. I believe that it's good to do that at the university level, and it's good to do. We participate, frankly, in STEM education, trying to get teachers to come to our labs and then go out and educate students. But the best idea that I think we can do is that there shouldn't be a company in any region that gets a nickel of state money to support a high-tech enterprise that doesn't have a requirement to give a disadvantaged or underrepresented student a paid internship. You know, my friends can call me up and their kids can get internships, but nobody's calling up for these kids that come from the inner cities. That's what we should do. We do it at our council level. It's a question we ask everybody. Lieutenant Governor, I think you should pass a law. I think you should make it the rule. You can't get state money for these types of things if you're not willing to give at least an internship to somebody who won't experience this kind of high-tech development. It's the only thing that makes sense. If we did it across the whole state, we could have thousands, tens of thousands over time, students exposed to all the greatness around New York, and maybe want to be part of it in the future. Turning to how we play, here comes my crazy idea, thinking out of the box. I think we ought to get 2 of our 198 towns together, let them merge and come up with a new name. Let them call themselves Napa East. You're laughing at that, huh? If you raise your hand, how many people in this room have ever heard of Napa? I bet you everybody's heard of Napa. If you go to California, how many people have heard of the Hudson Valley? A couple, a few New Yorkers who moved out west. Yet the Hudson Valley is ranked by National Geographic as one of the top 20 most important must-see places in the world. How can that be? We have to do a better branding. Maybe we just call it Napa East. We get in town and we steal that brand a little bit from California. Or maybe we come up with a new brand. But we have all the resources here. We have breweries. We have one of the oldest wineries in the world. We have the Culinary Institute, which actually has operating assets in Napa Valley, so they have experience. We have a prison, by the way. I know our prisons haven't worked exactly like we'd like lately, but we do have a prison that people would like to visit. We have a little project going where we're trying to get people to go up the river and see Sing Sing. We've seeded that investment to do some planning there. This region can be a Napa East. There's lots of reasons that people can come, and if you do it, just a small success. You know, the tourism industry in our region is $4 billion now. In New York, it's $400 billion. We get 1%, we double our region's tourism just by getting a better brand. We have the assets, so part of our plan is to come up with a better brand. So let me turn it back over to Dr. Murray to comment on some of the specific programs. But I just want to say that, you know, we're not BCG or whatever other consultants have been involved. We're just people who know a little bit about innovation. Our company was ranked the 5th most innovative company in the world by Forbes magazine. We think there's lots of innovation. We know it when we see it. There's lots of innovation all across New York State, and there's lots and lots of it in our region that we want to foster. Dennis?
Thank you. Lynn and I will do this last slide together, but where you might think these 3 initiatives are somewhat independent, there's a lot of cross-fertilization in them. So through our LIVE initiative, that's where we're going to try to enhance our urban centers through major capital investments, as the governor said, that will indeed create jobs. We have a proposal from the Grayston Bakery, and that model is one where they'll hire anyone. It doesn't matter about your arrest record, doesn't matter if you've been on drugs. If you're really willing and ready to go to work, they'll hire you, they'll put you to work. We want to try to replicate that model in more of our distressed cities. We want to work more on urban farming and renewable energy projects. And then let me flip over to play, because the jobs that will be created through tourism and the food and related industries are not the top high-check paying STEM jobs, but again, they're jobs that will address some of the problems in our urban centers. As Lyd said, we have great assets there. We feel we need more what we call destination resorts to make that successful. And the model is, because New York City is the #1 tourist destination in the world, if we can capture a small percent of those tourists who are coming to New York City, to get them to take a day or two to come up to the Hudson River Valley, to experience the hotels, the inns, the food, not only the oldest winery in the United States in the area, but also the Millbrook wineries owned by the Dysons, one of the more successful wineries in New York State. We think we can make a dramatic impact in that area. And then, of course, in the area of the high-tech work STEMs, where we think the higher paid jobs will be created. One, we want to continue the type of work that Lynn has done in biotechnology development. We think we are making progress in that area. We want to continue our emphasis on information technology and working with some of the leading technology companies in the United States. We believe we have a program that will help establish New York State as not only a state leader in cybersecurity, but an international leader in cybersecurity, which is critical to some of the core industries in this state, but is also projected to be an area of huge job growth in the coming decade. And then finally, we want to create in our urban settings some what are called live-work innovation spaces, where there are housing units, but also innovation spaces for young entrepreneurs. Again, coming to the urban centers, the distressed areas, bringing some technology and maybe artistic initiatives to those areas, again, creating the higher paying jobs, but also elevating what we believe to be some of the areas that are in need of attention in our area. So we're excited about this plan. Again, we think we have a unique area, one that has enjoyed great success, but we also believe, as I said, we could be at a tipping point. We have to make very important strategic decisions about our region going forward so we can continue to contribute to the success that New York State is enjoying under our governor. So thank you for your time. And Lynn?
Yeah, I just want to close with one point on metrics. You know, we know a little bit about metrics and statistics and what have you, but I'm with the governor on this one. When we came from the airport today, Dennis and I had a limo driver, and we asked the driver, how are things in Buffalo? And you know, when all of you people get up and say things are great, and all the people from Buffalo say things are great, it really doesn't matter much. But the limo driver the limo driver said, "You would not believe it. Andrew's billions," referring to Governor Andrew Cuomo, "have been unbelievable. They have transformed this region," and he was like a commercial for the Chamber of Commerce. So hats off to the Western New York. Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure all of our cab drivers drink the same Kool-Aid. It works out well for us. Thank you very much. And are there any questions?
Yeah, I'm sure there are, but I do have to comment on Len's ambition to make Sing Sing a tourist attraction. I can't get over that. I'm still dealing with it.
Well, we've given a lot of thought to that. And I just returned from meetings out at Stanford, so I was in San Francisco. I was a group of 30 people, and we were having dinner, and you could see Alcatraz Island. I said, if you came to New York and Sing Sing, again, going upriver, the big house from a lot of movies, if it was a tourist attraction, would you go see it? And almost every person in the room raised their hand. And there is a Sing Sing museum, as you know, so we have a proposal to build on that to make it another tourist attraction in our area.
We're going to get there one way or the other.
Whoa, I'm not.
Director Toby.
Thank you. First of all, I want to comment on all the presentations and then a sort of a comment and question. This has been a very, very impressive day, and thank you for that. The one thing that I hope you'll consider adding as you go forward is this question of leading indicators. We talked about it at the very beginning of the process, and I hope you go back when you're concluding the work and revisit that question for all the regions to see if there's something that's happening that's somewhat unusual, not captured within the normal statistics, but that may help us see the future a little bit more clearly. For your region, there seems to be more of a disparity, let's say, across the geography of the region, from Westchester County and some of the affluent immediate suburbs, all the way up to Sullivan County. It's very different, and the challenges are very different. Can you tell us how the region's uniting behind this plan and you're facing these very difficult challenges of such a vast difference in the economies and the current circumstances of the residents?
I would start off by saying that the region is the region. You gave us the region, and you are right to observe that there are differences across our region. Westchester, Orange, Rockland, Dutchess, Sullivan, Ulster, Putnam, these are all different areas. But I think that we're connected by the river. We're connected by great transportation with the rebuilding of the Tappan Zee Bridge. And we are connected in principle because people believe in our process. If you look at where the priority projects are, we didn't try and make them geographically dispersed. They wound up that way. And I think that's proof positive, and that gives people confidence that we don't choose based on politics, we don't choose based on location or anything else. We just choose on what's the best economic stimulator project that we can get the most leverage out of. And so people have come around to that. The other thing is, I think that things grow contiguously. You're not going to get people in the middle of nowheres all of a sudden to have all the young people want to live there. But if you spread north, New York spreads to Westchester, Westchester spreads up and so forth, eventually connect the capital area, you connect out to the western part of the state. You have to grow outward and connect because you just can't plop down innovation and high tech and coolness in the middle of nowheres. And so we actually think that's an advantage for our contiguousness to the New York area is a big advantage.
Yeah. Let me just add, I do give the governor credit for this. The area did not cooperate in economic development initiatives. With his new concepts, the competition, working together, but defining us as a region, I think that has worked. And one of the things that Lynn and I are always afraid of is that people will see Westchester and say, oh, you know, Gold Coast. Well, don't forget that two very distressed areas are also in Westchester, Yonkers and Mount Vernon, with major problems. And some of the programs that we funded, for instance, in Yonkers, like the daylighting of the river and some of the waterfront development there, is making an impact. But we have a long, long ways to go, even in Westchester County, to really realize, I think, the potential that we all want for all the citizens of New York.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Driscoll, I think you get the last question.
Okay, well, thank you, and thanks for the presentation. By the way, I think the Mid-Hudson is in a very cool area. I've been there many times, and I think it's pretty cool. You know, because you're in close proximity to New York City, how is that influencing or driving, if at all, any of the decisions that you might make, maybe in tourism or other areas?
Yeah. Well, I'll take that, and I'll let Lynn have the final word. In a number of different areas, and not only in tourism, but even some of our technology initiatives are very closely tied to New York City, and that's where we've had some great successes between the collaboration and the results of our work. But in tourism, we first of all hope to have many of the tourists from New York City, again, one of the #1 tourist destinations in the world, coming up and spending a day or two in the great Hudson River Valley. So that's part of the strategy. But another part of the strategy, and there's going to be some interesting proposals coming as part of our plan this year to do farm to table, to take the great farming that we have in our region and have those products delivered to New York City restaurants. And even today, some of the fine restaurants in New York City, you'll see Hudson River Valley or Hudson River Valley this or that on the menus. We think that could be greatly expanded, again, creating a new image, a new brand, not only for New York City, but for the Hudson River Valley. So you'll see that played off in many areas of the plan that we'll be submitting.
I mean, we really recognize that it's an asset, New York area. All these concierges that send people to do things, we need them to send them up to Napa East, and so they can really enjoy some time away from New York City and view it as a must-see part of their New York tourism trip.